we had talked about having Jay and Silent Bob in this. Shit, dude, we got Leia. What the fuck? Why would we have Leia? That, to me, Jay and Silent Bob made more sense than having Leia in it, honest to God.
No. I don't agree with that, because Jay and Silent Bob were Jay and Silent Bob, whereas Carrie Fisher was playing a filing clerk. And that I had seen, I don't know how true either of these are, that Sydney's here to walking into the police station, finally reuniting with the rest of the cast.
And still wearing the letters, wearing,
because she needs some good luck.
Yeah.
That I had heard that they had wanted Jamie Lee Curtis to be the filing clerk that Carrie Fisher eventually was. I think that makes more sense, because we had
Halloween.
We had Linda Blair in the first one, and so it would have stuck with the horror. But with a Hollywood meta commentary, I like it being Carrie Fisher. And
sure,
I think I also read that they gave her a license to like write her own lines in that skit. And she just happens to talk about, I didn't get the role, I didn't sleep with the producer, which comes up later in the movie.
Yeah. And that goes back to it being a Wes Craven, fuck you, Harvey Weinstein, for being a piece of shit, because the situation she describes is very much what Harvey Weinstein was kind of doing in the background. And it's fitting for Carrie Fisher because she's very vocal about that kind of stuff. Don't
get me wrong. I loved it. I thought it was super fun. It just, Jay and Silent Bob were so big in the late 90s and early 2000s that like they were everywhere. So I just thought like having them as a cameo in Hollywood, like I just thought that was so funny. And then once I saw Carrie Fisher, I was like, no, like to me, I had that what moment, whereas Jay and Silent Bob, I was like, oh, that's funny because of everything that they were doing at the time. But like I saw Carrie Fisher and I was like, what are you doing? Where'd you come from? But I loved it. I thought it was hysterical. Her lines were amazing. I thought that she was awesome. And the way she delivered, she's like, oh yeah, stage name, whatever, Parker Posey's stage name was supposed to be. She was perfect. She was absolutely perfect. And no one could have done it better. I just think when I saw it for the first time, it threw me. Now the Jamie Lee Curtis thing, 100% agree with you. 100%. It definitely would have, because we did get Linda Blair, it definitely would have contributed to the keeping it with the horror, but it also just would have been, I feel like it would have just been funnier than having Carrie Fisher. Like it just would have been funnier. So I feel like it was a missed joke. But yeah, still think it's great. It just was a definite what moment for me.
Would you have liked David Boreanaz from Bones and Buffy and Angel to play Detective Dempsey?
No. Nope. No, because I didn't like Angel. I was really over David Boreanaz because I loved Angel in Buffy, but I hated Angel. I was not a super fan of it. I was really off of it, I think, by like the third or fourth episode of the first season. And of course, everyone says make it through the first season. It always gets better. I disagree. So just in that instance, but yeah, loved him in Buffy, didn't like Angel. So I was super, super happy that I didn't have to be just smacked in the face with David Boreanaz again.
That Detective Dempsey, I know it's Detective Kincaid, but I like calling him.
Yeah, it's fine.
Dempsey.
McDreamy, which one is he?
What? What'd you say?
McDreamy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The film noir detective is a little too close of what Angel the show was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And like that wouldn't really be that interesting. It'd just be like a crossover episode.
Yeah, exactly. Not about it, didn't want it, super happy it didn't happen. So we have our favorite Jamie Kennedy back on screen playing Randy. But it is Randy on screen. So it's Randy. They're watching a movie that Randy left for them about the third. If you are still alive, clearly I'm not. If you're watching this, like these are the new rules for you. Now, I did read, and I'm so glad that this didn't end up happening because it was too far fetched. I agree. That because Randy was such a fan favorite and fans did want to see more of him, one of the ideas was to have Randy like stowed away by his parents, that he was still alive, but his parents just kept him away, and he reemerged kind of like Sydney does. He reemerges. But it didn't read well, and it was too far-fetched, so the writers did not go with that idea. Obviously, that really glad it didn't happen. Love this. Love the recording. Love to see. It's so perfectly Jamie Kennedy as Randy. It's perfect Randy.
They had to film.
So
I bet Jay and I are saying the same thing, that they had to film hours and hours for this like 2 minutes of screen time.
Yeah. And I honestly think that part of it was just to try to make the story make sense, because what he delivers absolutely brings that kind of twist ending of who the killer is at the end of the movie. He prepares you for that kind of out of the blue, like, who the fuck is this? So they do a good job of setting that up. There is a lot of them introducing a character by name and then going, you're blah, blah, blah's, blah, 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 which is how we meet Randy's sister, Martha. Which is a fun little. She
comes back.
Thing.
We meet her again later in the franchise.
Does she really? I did not know that. I don't know that I've seen Scream 4 now that I think about it.
I do want to call out here just a second. So we had just had a scene where Sydney, Gale, and Dewey were all back together, which of course, love to see it. Love your favorite trio. But we see Gale start walking away. Her and they were having a disagreement. And I want to point out that there was someone, just random dude, sitting in a director's chair, scrolling through like papers, like he was going through lines. He had jeans and those boots on.
See, another random red herring.
But I think it's great. I think it's so great. I love it because you just don't know at that point. Like at this point, you're like, well, I saw the jeans and boots and I saw this and who the fuck is it? And I love that. I love that you kept guessing all the way up until the end.
And it's funny that they brought it up, right? You brought that up as they are showing the Randy saying it's backstory you didn't know was there. It's a random person. Maybe this movie is this highly clever commentary that everyone just kind of fucking missed.
That's why I love this so much. It's good, you guys. It's not the best, but it's good. It's smart. It's funny. Like, love it. It's not the best, but it's
good. So one of the facets, the points they're making about doubles, about mirror images, and you see it the most here when Courtney Cox and Parker Posey are both playing different iterations of Gale Weathers, a copy of a copy. And then, we saw you have Detective Dewey, but then you also had, or Deputy Dewey, but then you also had Bodyguard Stone, the actual bodyguard, the actual protection. You have Sydney and you have Angelina as a fake Sydney. You even have Maureen, and then this alter ego that we're about to find out of who she was, Raina Reynolds. I like that idea of how all of the people have an alternate identity, and how Sydney's alternate identity is Laura, the crisis counselor, who's a recluse. And there's a part, like my favorite scene of the movie, when we're in Sydney's back into the Woodsboro set here, that I wondered, are we supposed to see ourselves in this movie as like the consumers of true crime, of dramatizations of true crime? Stunned silence.
Yeah.
Because when Sydney goes back to the Woodsboro recreations and she's reliving the PG-13 relationship and all this, it helps us to remember that in this universe, these were real events.
Yeah.
How often, and so now, especially now, 20 years later, and there's this whole true crime genre. It's exploded. You know, we all watch Forensic Files and everything else, all the podcasts.
Bones was on while I was getting tattooed today. Weird aside, but I was laying on my back looking up at the screen, so I was trying to read the subtitles upside down. Or when I'd like lean up, there was a mirror across from me that I could see and try to read it in. And like I don't watch Bones, but I was watching it because it distracted from my fucking leg getting hammered.
I don't think there's so much of a true crime boom. I think it's just more available.
Yeah.
Because I mean, think about it. The people from like the 15 and 1600s, what the fuck were they doing? Watching public hangings? Like that was a good time. Like they would go and watch people get ripped up by tigers, and they would watch people get tortured and stuff. And or they'd go and storm a crime scene and see what they could grab. Like, let me grab this raisin off this cake that was a murder house. Like, you know what I mean? So I just think that I think it's just, we have more of it. There's just we have it so readily available at our fingertips. They know what we like. That's why there's like so many shows and stuff. They're like, yeah, this has been around for ages. People want that gory shit. Here you go. Like and you don't want the easy stuff. The one that's like, oh yeah, he was a con man or whatever. No. That doesn't get your numbers. What gets your numbers? Dude killed a kid, or, you know, some crazy guy went on a murder the San Francisco vampire dude just went on a random killing spree in 1 month, but he was so high and on LSD and drinking so much alcohol that like his mentality was that he would go up to someone's house, check their doors, and if the doors were unlocked, it meant he wasn't welcome. But if the doors were unlocked, he was like, oh, I'm allowed to go in here. Let's see what happens. And like,
first rule, he broke the first rule of vampirism. You can't go in unless you're invited.
Oh, look at you.
We just missed a really vital scene in the kind of choppiness of the movie.
Thanks, Jay. I was really diving into some really good vampire stories. Go ahead.
I know. So Sydney meets the actress playing her in the Stab movie, and
the virginal ingenue.
Yeah, she is in a bathroom stall, which is reminiscent of multiple scenes with Sydney and the killer. But she has the costume, the boots, the knife, the mask, the full regalia. And Sydney's like, WTF, bro? And she's like, oh, the movie's over, so I was stealing some memories. I like it more with her being a potential killer. It just makes more sense to me. And yeah.
I don't. I like it. I like the way that
I like the idea, the in-between of her being Roman's secret girlfriend, who is just a hapless accomplice that doesn't really, it isn't in it to murder people, but, you know, will turn on a burner of a stove or send, you know, write down a phone number, just be a little spooky.
Yeah, I mean, her as an accomplice, I think I like a lot, more so than her being an actual killer. And I think...
So you want her to be more of Mrs. Loomis, who really doesn't do a whole lot of killing. She does, but she doesn't do a whole lot. She mostly left it to...
Mickey.
What's his name?
Mrs. Loomis is
Mickey,
like a puppet master who kind of pulls the strings.
That kind of sounds like what you want here.
No, I think she's more of a... If we're going with the puppet show analogy, she's like someone who is moving background pieces to move the plot forward, and
she's
and
stagehand.
Yeah, exactly. So she's involved in the production, but she's not, you know, the writer or the performer.
Yeah, that's how I see Angelina in this.
I think we're far enough into the movie that we can kind of start talking about who the killer is.
I accidentally spoiled it a little.
No,
did you? Yeah.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree.
Right.
I think for this one, because we only like I think we've only said his name one time. I don't think we've said his name more